This video is going to cover Assignment 2, our basic login functionality and passing data between pages. If we look at our description here, we are going to learn a little bit about post versus get. In this, we are going to create a simple login page that has a login password and submit button. When you click submit, it is going to post data to this second page, login.php. This is what we call a processing page or a pass-through page, because it never stops and appears in the web browser. We pass right through it onto one of these 4 pages. Within this page, we're going to check the login and password. If they are the correct login and pass to send us to page 1, we will do a PHP location redirect to page 1. If they are the correct login and pass for page 2, we'll do a PHP location redirect to page 2. Same for page 3. If they're not correct in any way, we will do a redirect to the error page, which will have a link to take us back to the default page. Actually, all four of these will have a link to bring us back here so that it makes it easier for testing and grading. Now, post versus get. Posted information is sent in the HTTP header. So when we have form elements on a page and we hit submit, that goes as name equal value pairs to the next page, whatever the next page is. In our case, it's login.php. So we would have like user ID and then the value that was typed in, and we would have password and the value that was typed in, and that would get submitted as user ID : value and password equals value. There are 2 ways. The 2 ways that we're going to look at here for doing that is post and get. In this assignment, we're going to use post. Post sends it in the HTTP header so that it is not seen by the user, and we use an underscore post in PHP in order to grab that information on this page, which was typed in on this page. An alternative to that is using get, which sends it as a query string appended to the URL up here in the address bar. That makes it visible to the user, and for that reason we don't use it very often. Most of the time we're going to be using an underscore post. So you can see what we've got in line for being turned in. Let's go to a finished solution here. If we type in page 1 and alpha, it will take us to this page. You'll notice we landed on page 1.php. If we type in page 2 and beta, it will take us to the second page, page 2.php. If we type in page 3 and gamma, it will take us to this third page, page 3. And lastly, if anything is incorrect, it'll take us to this error.php, and we can circle back to here. And that is all that we're doing in this exercise. It is mostly about using that underscore post, getting this data that is typed in here to get passed to that second page, that processing page, login.php. We learned some PHP in that login.php, do some if-else statements in there, and then use a header redirect to get to one of the remaining pages where we use echo, which is another PHP method for writing information out to the browser. So really this is just an introductory exercise. It's not really about user ID and password logins. It's more about posting data and getting our first exposure at writing some PHP. So let's go ahead and start looking at that. There is a compressed zip folder down here that's got the 3 images in it. You can go and find 3 images of your own if you'd like. Doesn't matter. Or you can use those 3 that I've provided there. So now let's go to Dreamweaver. For a new page, you'll do File, New. You can choose PHP, HTML5, Create. You'll see a new page pop up. So we're going to start with index. So we'll do a file save. You'll see I'm in my Assign02 folder, and I want to name this index.php. You'll see that in my Assign02 folder, I've got that index.php now. This is on ECNIIS dev, so it's on the web server. And now we can begin to lay out this page. This is the basic form that Dreamweaver gives you for each page that you create. So inside the body here, we're going to do an H1. So that's a heading, and we're going to do Assign02. Login, and we'll do some inline styles here. So we'll do style equals, and let's do a font size, and we will set that to 14 point, and do a text indent of 360 pixels. Next, we want to lay out our login and password boxes. We're going to do a form. Anytime you've got input elements, input type equals or text boxes or things of that nature, you've got to have a form. So we've got open form ID equals. I like to call mine form 0, form 1, form 2. You can change that, but my examples are going to say form 0. Name equals form 0. These two are different. So I realize I called them both form 0, and that's mostly so that whether I'm doing JavaScript or HTML or PHP, it's the same name. But the reality is that this right here is what is used in HTML to submit name equal value pairs from this page to the next page. And this right here is what is used for JavaScript if we want to manipulate this form using JavaScript. Action will go to login.php, which we have not created yet. And the method we're going to use is a post. Inside of here, we're going to do a field set. The field set's going to give us that rectangle line around our login and password box when we do the CSS above. So we'll do a field set. ID equals info. Close that field set. And I'm going to have a second field set. ID equals submit. So in those two field sets, in this first one, we're going to have an unordered list. So I'll do a UL and our closing UL. Inside of there, I'll put our first list item. Open and close that list item. And inside of that first list item, I'm going to have a label with a title. Trying to get my tooltips to pop up, of user ID. It is for something with the name of user ID. The value that we're going to see on the screen is going to be user ID. And I'm going to put a space, a span tag, an asterisk, closing span, closing label. So that span is going to have an asterisk in it. We're going to set the color of that asterisk in CSS. And the asterisk will signify that that's a required field. Below that label, we'll do an input. So we've got label input, label input. That's how you lay out your form fields. This one will be type equal text. The name is user ID. It needs to match, it should match that for equals up above. So the name equals user ID. ID is also user ID in case I want to manipulate this using JavaScript. Size equals 30. Max length equals 30. For this exercise, those are just arbitrary numbers that I chose. We'll do that exact same thing again. So again, we've got a label and an input, but this one's for the password field. So I'll do label. The title is going to be PASSWD. It is for an input with the name of PASSWD. What will be seen on the screen is this. I'll put a span with an asterisk, close span, close label. And then we have our input, type equal password. The name equals that for equals above, passwd. The ID I make the same for JavaScript. I'll set this one to be the same size and max length as the one above. So you can see that start to form up here. The formatting's not there yet, but we've got our user ID and our password there. Let's come down into this other field set where the ID equals submit. Inside of that one, we're going to have an input. Type equals submit with an ID of submit btn, a name of submit btn, and the value is what is written on the button itself. So the value for this is going to be login. You can see up here there's my button with the word login written on it. These input tags are self-closing. That's why they have that / greater than there. So input tags are self-closing. Now while we're working on this, let's go ahead and use a small piece of JavaScript to set the focus to this first item here. I'm going to do a Control-S to save. So let's go ahead and load that in the browser. So now you can see, because I'm using the same names as others, you can see it's automatically populated with what I had used on this other page, but the focus is not set here. So let's go ahead and set the focus there. We'll do a script type equals text / JavaScript. Closing script. And then inside of here we'll do a document.getElementById. We are looking for the ID of user ID. You can see it's helping me there saying, hey, you've got something called user ID on the page. I'll hit enter to accept that. Dot focus. I'll save that. Come back to this page and hit refresh, and now you can see that the focus is set to that item, that user ID at the top of the page. The rest of this page is CSS. So come back to Dreamweaver here, and inside of the open and close head tag there, we'll do a style. And inside of here we've got quite a few that we're going to do. So some of this should be refresher, maybe it's new, maybe it's not, but That's kind of the purpose of what we're doing here in this part. For all the unordered lists, we are going to do a list style. It's not automatically. Of none, and a margin top of 5 pixels. So you can see there's no bullet points there up above. UL space LI means an LI tag that is inside of a UL tag. Now there are different ways to lay this out, and this is just the way that I've chosen to go about it in this exercise. We'll do a display. It doesn't like the auto when I hit enter on that first element. Display block. Float to the left-hand side. Width of 100%. Height 1%. We'll do a UL space LI space label. So that's a label that's inside of an LI that's inside of a UL. We will float that to the left. Padding of 7 pixels. Color, do 6666 FF. You can see the color change up above. We'll do a UL LI input. That's an input that's inside of an LI that's inside of a UL. We will float that to the right. Margin of 10 pixels. Border of 1 pixel, space solid, space CCC for a gray. Padding of 3 pixels. Font family. And let's just choose that one. And let's move that down. Semicolon. Width of 60%. So now let's do a LI input colon focus. And let's set the border to 1 pixel, solid, pound 666, different gray. For the field sets, for all field sets, we're going to do padding of 10 pixels, a border that is 1 pixel solid, gray. We're going to set it to a width of 400 pixels. You saw it shrink right there. Set the overflow to auto. Margin to 10 pixels. Legend. Actually, we forgot to put in the legend down below. We'll finish up the CSS here, and then we'll pop that legend in down below. For the legend, we'll set the color to a darker blue. We'll set margins to be 0 space 10 pixels space 0 space 0. We'll set the padding to be 0 space 5 pixels. We'll set the font size to be 11 point and the font weight to be bold. So let's put the legend in there. Right inside of this field set should be a legend tag with the word login. Open and close legend. You see it appear right there. So there's your legend. Now we'll do field set that has an element with the ID of info. Field set that has an element, a field set with the ID of info. We'll do position, absolute, set the top to 60 pixels, set the left to 20 pixels, and the width to be 460 pixels. Now we'll do a field set with the ID of submit, position absolute, a top of 200 pixels, left of 20 pixels, width of 460, text align, center. And lastly, we'll do a field set that contains an input with the ID of submit button. We'll set the background to be E5, oops. Pound E5, E5. Color to be pound 000099. Border of 1 pixel solid, pound CCC. Padding of 5 pixels. Width of 150 pixels. So you can see up here that our button changed size, and that lays out our index.php. So we'll do a, and actually I skipped over one. I looked up here and I saw that my asterisks were the same color. I forgot to do, I'll put it after the legend. I forgot to do label that contains a span. We are going to set that color. Let me just stop doing that. Set that color to red. There we've got our red asterisks. And now that'll be it. We'll do a Control S to save. Come back to our browser and refresh that in the window, and it should look like this. So we've got our assignment 2, we've got our H1, we've got our login and our password, and we're ready to do the login page. Come back to Dreamweaver, do a file new, PHP. We'll look at the code only on that one and we'll do a file save. This one will be named login.php. We're going to do a Control A and delete. So now our first PHP. Our PHP uses delimiters like this. So that top one begins a section of PHP and the bottom one ends a section of PHP. And we can have multiple of those on a page. We can have as many of these open and closes as we want per page. So on this page, it's a processing page, a pass-through page. It's entirely PHP. So we're going to have one at the top and one at the bottom. Now the first thing we want to do is create a local variable. A local variable starts with a $, and then we can call it whatever we want. I'm going to have a $, user ID. That's a PHP variable. And I'm going to set it equal to the posted value that comes from index.php. So that's a $_post. Put double quotes inside of that, and then we use user ID. Now this right here, inside of those double quotes, must match what is on index.php input name equals. Now I made name equals and ID equals the same, but if they were different, this in between the double quotes has to match this name equals in between the double quotes. It is case sensitive. It needs to match exactly. Our PHP statement ends with a semicolon. Next, we're going to do another variable, so $PASSWD. Set that equal to $_post, the posted value from the previous page, where the name equals PASSWD. End it with a semicolon. Again, this value right here must match on this page index input name equals PASSWD. So we've created two variables. These are PHP variables here. This is posted data from the previous page from index.php. And now that we've done that, we can direct which page we are going to go to and land on. So our first example is going to be very much longhand, and I'm doing this purely for refresher, just to give us some exercise on if-else statements. We're going to do it very longhand, and then we will shorten it, and then we will shorten it again. Again, just as a refresher. So this is, I'm going to call this example 3. This one is, it will work, but it's not the one we'll end up using in the end. We're going to say if $user ID is double equal to the value page 1. So we are hard coding that page 1 in there. I'm going to put open and close curly brackets, and inside of that a nested if statement that checks to see if the password is double equal to the hard-coded value of alpha. I'll put curly brackets inside of that. The curly brackets signify the body of the if statement. If those two are true, we're going to do a PHP header location redirect to page1.php. If not, I have an else. If the password is wrong, then we redirect our location to error.php. And I need semicolons at the end of those two. So that corrects my red over there on my line items, my line numbers. So if the login is page 1 and if the password is alpha, then send us to page1.php. But if the login is page 1 and the password is not alpha, send us to error. We're going to duplicate this for page 2 and page 3. So I'm going to just copy this and paste it. This has to become an else if right here. So it's an if, else if. We say else if user ID is page 2 and the password is beta, then take us to page 2, otherwise take us to error. And likewise, we need to do that again for page 3. Else if the user ID is page 3 and the password is gamma, take us to page 3, otherwise take us to error. And then a final else that takes us to the error page. So if the user ID is mistyped, if it's not correct, this will not execute. If it's not correct, this won't, and this will. So it will send us to error.php. But if the login is correct, but the password is wrong, it'll fall into these error categories. And if the login and password is correct, it will go to page 1, page 2, and page 3. So that's the longhand way of writing it out. Now, in our example, we can kind of shorten this up some. Okay, we don't need a nested if inside of another if. We can do a logical and. So we can change this to be if, and we will do a grouping, ampersand, ampersand, a grouping. So this is called a logical and. That means the value on the left must evaluate to true, and the value on the right must evaluate to true in order to get to the body of the if statement. So the value on the left is going to be this $user ID double equal to page 1 and $PASSWD double equal to alpha. So it checks for both of those. If both of those are true, then we can do our header location page1.php. Likewise, we can do an else if. Again, you've got to add the word else here. So we add else if there. If it's page 2 and beta, then take us to page 2. Or else if it is page 3 and gamma, take us to page 3. And a final else that takes us to the error page. So that shortens it up significantly. And we can shorten it up just a little bit more because in our coding, an if statement that only has one line of code after it does not have to have the curly brackets. So I'm going to copy this entire thing right here. And this will be our example 1. I'm going to paste it. And I'm going to get rid of just the curly brackets. And And so it's fine to leave all of this on this page. You don't have to comment any of it out. The reality is that this part up here is what's going to execute, and the processing will never actually get to any of this down below. Because either we will enter correctly page 1 and alpha to go here, enter correctly page 2 and beta to go here, enter correctly page 3 and gamma to go here, or if any of it's wrong, we go here, and the processing never gets below that. So it's fine to leave all of this. Again, this was an exercise. We don't have to have this, but for this assignment you do. I want you to go through this exercise so that you are hopefully very comfortable with if statements and else ifs and else after this assignment, so that it's not something you've got to work on after this. So we'll do a Control S to save. Make sure that saves to the server. We can kind of test this. We have not created page 1, page 2, or page 3 yet, right? So they are not going to load. But if I enter page 1 and alpha and hit login, it will try to go there, page1.php. So we haven't created it, but it will try to go there. So we can test our logic if we want to. But let's go ahead and create page 1, page 2, and page 3. The good news there is once we create one, we can simply do file save as twice in order to create page 2 and page 3. So those will go pretty quick. So let's come back to Dreamweaver. We'll do a file new, create, and I'll go ahead and do a file save. And we're going to call this one page1.php. Now we're going to do this a little bit differently than what you might expect. And again, this is only an exercise, so please understand that. And if people don't watch or listen to the video, they're not going to understand that. And I will know that you have not watched or listened to the video. So this is only an exercise to teach you that you can use echo to write out just about anything in PHP. So what we are going to do is use the echo statement in PHP to write out the information that we want. So let's start actually by just creating this page the way we want it. It's not going to have much. We'll do Assign02 / welcome to the alpha page. Inside of the body, we'll do an H1. And in that, we'll put that same message, welcome to the alpha page. Below the H1, we'll do an H4 with an anchor tag. So I'll put an A href that points back to index.php. Close that anchor tag, and inside of there, I'll put return to the index page. And then the last thing we're going to do is inside of this body tag, we'll do a style. And we'll do a background-image URL into the image folder, and we are looking for this one right here. Style equals semicolon. We'll do a background dash repeat. No repeat. And let's go ahead and save that. And see if that loads the way we want. So I took out these double quotes here that that Dreamweaver put in automatically. Refresh this page, and there's my background image. And yeah, it overlaps, but that's fine. So this is our base page, but you are not done. So what we are going to do is use the PHP echo statement. So I'm going to open and close my PHP, and the echo just writes things out to the browser. So I can put something like that and hit Control S. It's not going to, it shouldn't show up here. This processing occurs on the server, and then that is sent to the client afterwards. So I'll come back here and I'll refresh this page, and there's my hello, how are you? And if I do a right click, view page source, you'll see that outside of the doc type, which is not where you want it, but that's where I put it. Just to show you that echo will write things out. It can also write out HTML, because HTML is just text until it's delivered to the browser. The browser then renders the text as HTML because it follows a doc type. So we're going to put this doc type inside of here to write it out to the browser. And then we're going to use the PHP concatenation operator. Concatenation is joining two or more strings together to make one, and it is done with a period. And we'll put a carriage return, a new line return there. So let's go ahead and save that. And refresh this page. View the page source, and you'll see my doc type appears here in my source just like it did before, except I'm using a PHP echo to write it out. Again, this is just an exercise in using echo. Echo is excellent for debugging. If you want to write out the name of a variable, it is excellent for that. We'll do an HTML here, and we'll do an echo head tag. I'm going to save it like this. This isn't how we want it, but I want to show you what happens. So I'm going to save it like this. Refresh this page, right click, view page source. The HTML and the head are right there side by side. So if I continue to not use this new line character, it will just put it in a string running off to the right hand side, which if that's the way you want it, that's fine. But in this example, I'm showing you how to format your end result. So I'll do concatenation. Again, that's joining two or more strings together into one string. And there are my new line characters. And once I hit save there, refresh this page, view the page source, you can see that now they're on separate lines. So we're going to finish this out, and we've got we'll have to escape some of this. So notice that we've got double quotes inside of this, and so essentially we're going to have double quotes inside of double quotes, and that is not going to work. So what we've got to do is escape them out using the backslash. So I'm going to come up here and paste that in. You'll see the color change. You'll see the red number. I'm going to put a backward leaning slash to escape it. Again, still wrong. Backward leaning slash, and now we're okay. So we've escaped out that double that double quote, so that it'll actually print that double quote. I'll do a save. What it has done is made it so that PHP doesn't think that it's a double quote that's ending a line. And so there's my end result. And we'll continue this out. We've only got a few lines left here to do, so let's go ahead and do the title. We'll grab the closing head tag. And I realize I'm leaving off the new lines. We'll come back and put those on. Here we've got, again, we're going to have to escape out this and this. So I'm going to grab this long opening body tag, paste it into here, escape that first one, escape that second one. You need one at the very end and one at the very beginning for it to work right. We've got this H1. Got this H4. Again, we've got to escape out a couple of those nested double quotes, and then two more echoes. That closing body tag. This closing HTML tag. And now let's save that. Refresh this page. Right click, view the page source. You'll see it's scrolling off to the right and eventually wrapping. I'm going to grab this concatenated with new line character, the period and the new line, copy. And I'm going to paste it at the end of each one of these. Inside of this meta tag, and I'll hit save. Refresh this page, right click, view the page source, and now it is written out using PHP, but looks exactly like it would look if we did not use PHP at all. And so that is just an exercise in using the echo statement. Echo is incredibly handy. We're going to do this on all three of the pages. Don't pay any attention to what's happening up here. It'd probably be best served to go view. Oh, there we go. Come on, view code. Probably be best served to look at this page like this, so as it's not confusing. You saw as we went back and forth that it was loading correctly and that the source was being generated correctly. So now what we're going to do is do a file, save as. And we're just going to save this as page 2. Thinking about it. There we go. So again, we're going to change this word alpha to be beta, and this word alpha to be beta. And we're going to change this alpha.jpg to be beta.jpg. Do a Control S to save. come back here, return to the index page, and we'll change this to go to page 2 and beta. And here's our beta page. Right click, view page source. Here we've got our HTML rendering out the way we'd expect it to. And these here are pings. So let's come back here. Save that again. Refresh this page. There's our image. Back to index. Come back here, do a file, save as. Change this to page 3. We'll change this word beta to gamma. This one to gamma. And this one to gamma. It's also a ping, so we'll do a Control S to save that one. Back to this page. Page 3, gamma. Log in. Here's our gamma page. Right click, view the page source. Printing out using echo like we'd expect. Back to the index page. The last thing we need is this error.php. So for that, we are just going to do a file, new, PHP, create, file, save, error.php. We'll change the title of this one to be Assign02. You are not authorized to view this page. Inside of that body tag, we're just going to create something that looks like an error page. And this is just straight HTML, no PHP on this page. It does have a .php extension, but it is just HTML on this page. So let's start with we'll put it inside of a table, do a little refresher with tables. We'll do width equals 410. We're going to have cell padding of 3 and cell spacing of 3. Close the table. Inside of the table, let's do a TR, a closing TR, and in that first part there, we'll do a TD, vertical alignment to the middle, closing TD, and let's put an H1 with a style of color pound for black, and let's do a font size of 13 points. Close the H1 and we will put you are not authorized to view this page. And let's make that 15 point, a little bit larger. Second area, we'll do another table row with a table data cell or a table column, as it were. So inside of here we'll do just some text. You do not have permission to view this directory or page using the credentials you supplied. Move down a little bit. Another table row. Open and close that table row. Here we'll do a table data cell. Open and close the TD. And there we'll put let's do a horizontal rule. And we can change the color on those if we want. So let's do a style color of C0, C0, C0. We'll just make that the same at the bottom as well. In between those two HRs, we'll put our message. We'll do, please try the following. Unordered list, closing unordered list, list item, closing list item. We'll say, go back to the index page to try again with different credentials. We will make the text index page an anchor tag. So there's our open and close anchor tag. Or if you believe you should be able to view this directory or page, please contact the website administrator, which would be you, by the way, by using the email, address, or phone number listed on the home page. And another part, we'll do paragraph tag. And we'll put in HTTP 401.1 space dash unauthorized logon failed. Internet Information Services. So now we've got our basic message there. Simple looking error page. You can put some formatting in there to change the font size or font color for the styling. Let's go ahead and save that. And let's come back to here, and we are already on error.php. Let's refresh. And there's our error page. I can go back to the index, and I can once again try page 1 and alpha and get to the alpha page. I can once again try page 2 and beta and get to the beta page. I can once again try page 3 and gamma and get to the gamma page. I can try page and alpha and get to the error page, or anything wrong will get me to this error page and bring me back. And that should complete your assignment. So we've gone through getting through this default login page, this processing page of login, and then pages 1, 2, 3, and the error page. We've looked at the finished solution. We've talked about post versus get. We've talked about the opening and closing PHP delimiters and how to use those. You're going to see in future assignments that we intersperse HTML and PHP. We go back and forth a lot within a single page. So you'll get used to that. But that gets us through the end of assignment 2.